I know it's happening.
Not on my job.
My goodness, no, it's there.
Yeah, please cross that one out too, Randy. Hey, you're back.
Well, my book is.
I don't know if it's 0 or 300. I'm
My-
not sure what you're at.
Zeros.
Okay, we're good there. 3 o'clock on the dot. Okay, I will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Director Sewell?
Here.
Director Grasha?
Here.
Director Martin?
Here.
Vice President Duncan?
Here.
President Wright? Here. Thank you, we have quorum.
Thank you. Let's all stand for the pledge of allegiance. Ivan, you want to start us out?
Sure. Hand over your heart. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we ask the Heavenly Father in thy infinite wisdom to guide the members of this board in such a way that all their thoughts, endeavors, and decisions will be made for the betterment of the entire community. We also beseech thee protect our country and our people from all conflicts, foreign and domestic.
Amen.
First of all, we have employees recognition. And we have some, we have Arturo, who's been here 8 years. Are you back there? Yeah, you are. Congratulations. Boy, how time flies, huh? And we have Lorenzo Soto, who's a field operations technician 1, 2 years? Where are you at? There you are. Hi.
2 years.
Congratulations. We have no promotions. We have certificates. We have Tim Owens, who's a water treatment operator guy, grade 1. Hello.
Good
welcome.
job.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations.
And Mark Vermeer, wastewater operator, grade 1.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, God, now he's out in the wastewater treatment plant now, and you're getting things up. Arden, I'll give it to you. If you have anything to say about these gentlemen.
Well, other than, you can see that we have, a lot of longevity. We've had cycles that you get 2 or 3 people retire, which is what we had happen. We appreciate the fact that you strive to get your certifications and improve. That's good, and my compliments. And then I can't believe Arturo's been here for 8 years. It just doesn't seem that long. That's amazing. And Lorenzo, good job, 2 years. And I see even Chris is here too. So.
Have any supervisors here that'd like to make any comments
Any
about
comments?
these gentlemen?
Sure.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Lorenzo is one of my employees. He works with a construction maintenance crew. Like I said, he's been here for 2 years, and I can't ask for a better dedicated employee than Lorenzo. He's got, I think, a bright future here at the district. He's one of those employees that, is very reliable. You can call him after hours and he'll respond even if he's not on call. So, he's a great asset to the district. And Lorenzo, I appreciate all the work you do, and he's got a bright future here.
Thanks, Lorenzo.
We had appointed members that didn't make it. Mark Vermeer has been here with the district about 19 years, and he's been with our department about 2 years. And in that time, he's really helped us out. When I came to the district, I learned a lot from him at the beginning, and now I continue to learn from him, and he's continuing to learn from us. So now he's gotten his grade 1. Now we can finally call him an operator.
They've been teasing you, Mark.
Hey, Mark, you've been here a long time. How long have you been here?
19 years next month.
19 years,
Wow. Yeah. He just came to the wastewater treatment plant. How long ago have you been in the plant, did they say?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years, okay.
So I've been here for myself for three months, and Tim's been here in our department for 4 months, and in the company for about 1.5 years. And over the last 3 months, I kind of asked for a better employee in our department. So good job, Tim, and keep on getting those certificates. Thank you.
Good job.
And since you're the only one here, Arturo, we'll give you a applause too. I don't see you unless you want to get talk about yourself. I don't know, Matt. Oh, I see Matt now. I didn't see Matt before.
Real quick, been here 8 years and I still love my job. Thank you.
Oh. Any of you other guys would like to say anything before I know you head out before we continue? Okay, if not, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for all the work and efforts you do to put into the job and make Mission Springs Water District a great place to work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, public input. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on a matter within the board's jurisdiction, but possibly not on the agenda today. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any of these items. I have a speaker card, Jeff Coleman.
Madam President, members of the board, Steve Gracia, during the 2018 campaign, you lied and called me a pedophile and a sex trafficker. On 9/23/2019, we went to court, and the court found you guilty of libel. You appealed that decision, and we went to court again on 12/6. You lost that appeal, and the judge wrote in her verdict, dated 12/13, the following, and I quote, "The uncontroverted evidence before the court is that defendant Gracia posted libelous material on his Facebook account and under his own name and under the name of Steve Davis. Gracia posted numerous statements unmistakably referring to Bowman as a pervert or pedophile. Having reviewed the photograph, the court finds Gracia's claim regarding the photograph to be outlandish at best. Even assuming that both men are public figures, the court finds that Gracia's statements were libelous and highly damaging to Bowman, and that the statements were made without any good faith basis, and that they were made maliciously. Furthermore, it is self-evident that the statements published by Gracia would be highly distressing to their target. Plaintiff Bowman, the judge said, is awarded $10,000 in damages and his court costs of $75. Steve Gracia, you have not paid me this judgment. Be informed today that I will be pursuing these monies by all legal means possible unless you pay before February 3rd, 2020. Your failure to pay this judgment will land you back in court where you will have to produce a statement of assets and you'll ultimately be forced to pay. To the rest of the directors and staff in this room today, Steve Gracia has libeled MSWD. He has boldly claimed that you secretly laundered $300,000 in cash through a nondescript storefront located in the strip mall of Desert Hot Springs, and that you have been doing this for years. Please realize that Gracia isn't someone speaking as the public from the podium. He is an elected official, one of you. He has taken the oath to selfishly uphold the principles of this district. Such a claim is that you've laundered $300,000 in cash must be taken seriously.
You're out of order.
They are not, and I'm keeping time.
Counsel, will you please control your director?
I already called him out of order.
Thank you. Such a claim that you've laundered $300,000 in cash must be taken seriously. He must either prove it or be held accountable for such an outrageous attack on the very district he has sworn to protect. Steve, I'll see you in court next Monday, our second lawsuit.
Would anybody else like to speak at this public forum, public input forum? Okay, seeing none, we will go to item number 6, public hearing number 1 for the process to transition to bi-division elections system. So I have a public hearing somewhere. I have all that here. So this is the time This is a time and place to fix and solicit the public's input in respect to the preparation of draft maps of decisions in the process for the proposed transition from at-large to division elections. The public hearing will be declared open. I open the public hearing, and staff will give their report. I will then call for the comments from the public during this time there'll be no back and forth conversations between the public and the board and the staff. All questions will be noted and will be addressed after all public comments have been received. The public hearing will then be closed, and the board may have a discussion if necessary. Okay, so the public hearing's open. Secretary.
Notice of public hearing was posted to the Desert Sun newspaper on January 10th, 2020. As of this afternoon, there has been no comments or protests on this item.
Thank you. Staff report, Victoria.
Madam President and members of the board. So this public hearing is our first public hearing in the process of going to a by-division election system. If you recall, back in March of 2019, the Board of Directors passed a resolution of intention in order to initiate the procedure to establish a by-division election system. The first two hearings will help, as mentioned, they are informational only and there's no action necessary. The first two are to garner public feedback, which will help to determine how the maps will be drawn in subsequent public hearing meetings. As you'll see in the staff report, our second public hearing will be held during the February board meeting of February 18th. And with that, I will pass it over to our demographer, David Eli. And at the same time, I will pass over, I welcome any questions you may have on the historical perspective of MSWD and the districting process, but otherwise I will leave it over to David's expertise. I just want to mention I'll be handing out maps in case you would like to look at them, not just on your screen, but they will be in David's presentation. So, and these are just socioeconomic graphs. So if you can please not look at them until they have been brought up during the presentation, that would be most helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's is this where we do let the public speaker, do we let this gentleman say his thing first and then let the public?
He's part of the presentation.
Yeah, he can do his presentation first.
Okay, because I wasn't sure this was.
Nope.
Okay. So, please step forward and state your name for the record and what you're doing here.
Hi, my name is Dave Ely, president of Compass Demographics and a demographer who works on districting. I have a semi-brief PowerPoint that includes general information about the typical districting process. This is the first meeting, so I will hope to have additional direction from you, information from the public that will go into the process. But this PowerPoint is sort of in a sense generic, but with detailed information about the district. So first of all, in the process of going to districts, state law requires that there be 4 public hearings, 2 of which are held before any draft maps are created, and 2 of which are after the draft maps are created. And any draft map needs to be published 7 days before the public hearing in which that will be discussed. Any modified map must be published at least 7 days before the board can adopt it as the plan going forward. As been mentioned, this is the first of the public hearings, and we have a second one on February 18th. Hopefully we will get some public input, and we'll also try and start to put together a system to allow people to continually provide input during this process. After we get through these first 2 public hearings and whatever public input we get there, I will take that, produce some draft maps, and then we will have a second round of hearings at dates to be determined. This slide is basically describing general considerations that go into drawing districts. Some of these things will be considered, not necessarily all of them, but it's a general layout of the kinds of things that go into this process. We have legal requirements. Of course, those have to be considered, and I will discuss those a little bit more later. We look at the geography of the jurisdiction, neighborhoods, the physical layout, where the streets and highways are, and that sort of thing, and then school districts or cities or other overlapping jurisdictions that might be relevant. Sometimes we look at historical political participation, where we look at voter registration or voter turnout, and ethnic shares of those as determined by surname matching. Again, that's something that's done sometimes, but not generally unless there's a particular need for it. The primary data that's used for the districting is census demographic data, population by ethnicity, voting age population by ethnicity from the 2010 decennial census, and then citizen voting age by ethnicity, which comes from the American Community Survey and is more recent. So it's from the 2007 5-year American Community Survey. We'll also look at a number of socioeconomic characteristics. That data also comes from the American Community Survey. And then, of course, an important part of what we do is the public input, and that's up to the public, the nature of what that input will be. When we're looking at the geography, what we're trying primarily to do is figure out how to make the districts as functional as possible. So we're looking at neighborhoods or communities where people act together or have common interests. We want to look at physical features that might either act as barriers between people or connections between people. We want to look at different communities that might have things in common, so it would make sense to put them in districts together, or communities that have big differences of interests that might be better to be not in the same districts. And then also looking at potentially significant points of interest within the jurisdiction. These would be geographic features or locations of high impact, either beneficial or negative locations, facilities, that sort of thing. The technical process is basically my job in making sure that the districts that are being configured or being considered meet the regular legal requirements, as well as giving advice about communities of interest from what we learn. We have federal requirements. The districts have to be equal in population according to the most recent decennial census, so from the 2010 census. The districts can vary a little bit in population, but the most populous district can't be more than 10% higher population than the lowest population district. So an easy way to look at it is plus or minus 5%, but it isn't always plus or minus 5%, but a total of 10% maximum. We have to make sure that minority voting rights are protected, and in doing that we have to avoid vote dilution, which means creating districts that would make it more difficult for members of a minority group to elect candidates of their choice than it is for others. And it's clearly illegal to do that if you do it intentionally, but even if it's done by accident, it still can be a violation of the Voting Rights Act. So that's an additional part of my job, is to give you advice as to whether unintentionally districts might be having that effect. The third federal requirement is basically what's known as equal protection. So we can't make assumptions based on race and draw the districts exactly because of race, making assumptions that everyone who's of the same race has the same interests and things like that. So even though we have to be concerned with protecting minority voting strength, we can't do it by basically making just racial assumptions and assigning people to districts based on that. State law is much more generic in that current state law for this process, there's only 4 bullet points in a sense: topography, geography, cohesiveness, contiguity, integrity, and compactness of territory, and community of interest. Those first 3 basically all can be boiled down to that the districts have to be contiguous and make sense in terms of putting together people who can connect with each other reasonably well. Community of interest is a very broad idea. Anything that might affect how people select candidates for office, policy choices, things that they would want to communicate to the board, how people might work together in trying to elect candidates. Any of those things creates a community of interest, so a representational interest in some way. And so that's something that primarily we determine from public input, but also from looking at like socioeconomic characteristics. Jumping 2 every time. The specific geographic data that we tend to look at, we don't necessarily consider all these things, but these are the things that are part of the data set that we look at. So we have the streets and highways within the geography. We have census tracts and blocks. Those are the units that the Census Bureau publishes the data from, and so we use those to assemble the districts in order to be able to have data summaries for the districts. Then we may also look at precinct geography. Sometimes the census geography doesn't match geography on the ground very well. In those situations, we might use parcel lines or something like that to do district boundaries. We also look at GIS layers, of geographic information systems, so mapping layers that the district has itself. And then we might look at things like school district boundaries or attendance areas or things like that, if people consider those to be relevant to the process. The kind of demographic data that we're going to be summarizing for all the districts. In this table, I have a summary for the water district as a whole. So there's, according to the 2010 census, there's 37,572 people in the district. So 1/5 of that is 7,514 people. So that's the ideal district size. That's the target that we're going to try and make each of the districts. The overall population is 53% Latino and 36% white, smaller percentages of other groups. The voting age population is a little more white and less Latino because the Latino population is younger. You have higher concentrations of people who are under voting age. So it's 45% to 44% white. And then in citizen voting age numbers, again, there are more non-citizen Latinos than other groups. So we have 35.7% Latino in the citizen voting age population. When we're looking at districts, the citizen voting age population is an important characteristic for evaluating vote dilution and potential voting rights analysis.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Now, I've got a series of maps that show some socioeconomic characteristics that tend to play into communities of interest. And so I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. The color scheme on all of these is a cold to hot color scheme. So blue colors are low numbers, and then goes through green, yellow, orange, red to the highest numbers. And that will be true for all of the maps. So, and on this map, the numbers are a little small, but the numbers that are showing up in each of these categories is what the actual median income is in that census block group. So it ranges from 23,000 in some of the blue areas up through 65,000 in the red areas. This is related to income, but is showing concentrations of people with incomes below the poverty level, and so you have a fairly high concentration in some of these areas, as high as 50.7%, and a couple areas with 47%, and then down to as low as 6% in the darker blue area. This shows the concentration of renter-occupied housing. So we've got, some of the same areas that had the higher poverty rates are also very high percentage renters, and then most of the rest of the area has fairly low percentage of renters. This map shows the percentage of housing units that are overcrowded according to federal definitions. Overcrowded basically means there's more than one person per room in the housing unit. And so here the highest numbers are about 17%. The lower numbers are close to 0. This is a concentration of children, basically the population that's under 18. Again, you can see significant concentrations in some areas, as high as 35%. This map is showing the percentage of households that are living in the same house as they were living a year earlier. And so, typically that's a fairly high percentage, but you can see in some of the areas, the blue areas, it's only about 75%, which means that about 25% of the population there turns over in a single year. And then this map is showing the percentage of adults that have college degrees, and that's any kind of college degree, so an associate degree or a bachelor's degree or a graduate degree, anything. And again, you've got some areas that it's extremely low, 7 and 9%, and then other areas that go as high as 40%. Nothing much higher than that. All right, this map is now, we don't have the big blocks of color because we're showing by census block, so there's much smaller units there, and it's showing the Latino share of voting age citizens. Now, I said earlier that that voting age citizen number is important in evaluating voting rights. The first step to making a voting rights claim is to demonstrate that it's possible to draw a district in which a particular minority group makes up at least 50% of the voting age citizens. And in this map, everything that is yellow, orange, or red is over 50% Latino and voting age citizens. And so you can see that there are significant concentrations that meet that category, and those areas are going to need to be considered carefully when drawing the districts. You almost certainly will need to have at least one district that is 50%, unless you have reason to believe that that's not necessary in order for the Latino community to elect their candidates. This map, the colors don't mean anything. They're just to show the separation of the individual units. These are mostly block groups, and we have the population on them. Because Each district is going to need to be about 7,500 people. You can see kind of the size of areas that are going to be necessary in these districts. You've got some large 3,000, 4,000 population block groups, which are very compact, and then you've got other very large block groups that have only 1,000 or so people in them. So you're going to have some districts that are very large, and you're going to have other districts that are very small. But this is sort of a tool that people can look at to get a general idea of what the districts are going to be sized like. And then we will be putting a district elections page on the Water District's webpage that will have information. It'll have a copy of this presentation, and it'll have information about schedules of meetings and any documents that we have involved. And there will be some information that will allow people to submit their input, probably an email address and information about where written comments can be sent and things like that. And that is my presentation.
One comment with regard to the website is that we're not quite up, but we're going to be up, and we've always intended to put this on the website and get on the webpage. So just to let you know, if you went to it tonight, you probably won't find anything, but hopefully by the end of the week we'll have all these on the website.
I have a question.
Okay, I was going to ask the public, but would you like to do?
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a process here, so.
Yeah, whichever way
Okay.
you want to do it.
Thank you. I think I'll ask for public comment now. Anybody in the public out there, or anybody would like to say something? A comment, a public comment? Okay. Hearing none, then I will close the public hearing before we do board discussion, correct, Dory? That's what this says? Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing since we have nobody speaking, and now I open up for board discussion. And so, Russ?
Yeah. I notice in your maps that regardless of what it is you're measuring, the boundaries for each particular category are the same throughout. One would think if you're measuring ethnicity and income, there might be some, the boundaries would shift a little bit and change instead of being the same one throughout. Could you touch on that explanation for that?
Yes, this data is survey data that comes from the Census Bureau, and those units that are shown on the map are the smallest units that they have the information for. So the same units are shown on all the maps, and the colors are according to the the percentage within that unit of whatever is highlighted on the map. So if you were able to show finer gradation, you would see much different borders, but those are that's as granular as the data is, and so we can't show any kind of shifting boundaries in that sense. It's just the colors for different characteristics. The pattern is a little different, so you can see it that way.
Okay.
But those are the units that the data needs to be.
Okay, thank you.
You done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we all did, but I watched Desert Water Agency go through this, and they're still working on part of this. So I know it's not as easy as just drawing a couple lines on a map and say, there you go, here's your pie chart. We're kind of up against the same numbers here. I'm sure everybody in the state is. This is 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We have the census taken this year.
Mm-hmm.
We have an election this year. Next year, the numbers come out. And then the following year, 2022, we're back to an election again. Can we do a much simpler, modified adjustment to lot lines, if you will, or do we start this whole thing? Because if there's significant growth in one district or significant loss, you've got to adjust accordingly.
Yeah, you probably still need to hold at least a couple of public hearings, but the initial analysis would be when you get the new census data, to look at what the populations are within the districts.
Mm.
If you're within that 10% highest to lowest population, then there's no requirement that you do anything.
Okay.
You could just keep the districts the way they are. If it's a small deviation, then you could just make small changes. If there's been a lot of growth in one area relative to the other areas, then it's likely that you'd have to do a more major configuration. But
Okay. And this was just more out of curiosity. Is there a correlation in turnout of voters, renters versus homeowners?
Yeah, there often is. We're on the even years election schedule, so the difference isn't quite as big as it always was with local elections in the odd years. But yeah, there's still areas that have a lot of renters tend to have significantly lower turnout, and especially areas that have a lot of renters and a high turnover in population, so people who are moving in and out regularly. The people who turn out most reliably are homeowners and homeowners that have stayed in the same location for a long period of time.
Oh, interesting. Thank you.
Steve?
I noticed your numbers show that I only looked at one breakout. It looks like it's a heavier Hispanic district-wide than it is Anglo, is that right?
In terms of population, it's majority Latino. In terms of voting age population, it's just about even, both about 45%. And in terms of citizen voting age population, then you have a white majority, and the Latino number is about 37%.
We've had, in recent history, we've had two Hispanic candidates. One who was elected to another office at the time she was running for the water board, I believe. No?
You talking about Mary Jane?
Sanchez? Wasn't she a member of the school board when she ran here?
Oh, yeah, she was.
That's what I mean. She was an elected official who was running.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't somebody that the folks didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Adam Sanchez ran. People do know him, and he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't successful. My point is, our council here accused us of not being a very diverse board or community in the way this board represents it. I got more votes than anybody in the history of the district. And the idea that people didn't have a fair shot at getting elected seems to me to be not accurate. So how do you slice that up into districts? Because for me, you've got a whole lot of, I went into this all for it, thinking, we need to do this because it's the best thing. And then I started looking at, and I've flipped a 180 on it completely. The public is not screaming for this. I don't see even people in our own community that typically would be out here for this. So I'm kind of blowing my impartiality here, but people need to get down here and ask for it.
Okay. Yeah, but we have to do it.
I know,
so
I'm not saying we shouldn't carry on, but that's how I'm thinking right now, and I could change my mind because I changed my mind.
Yeah, we'll see how the process works and see what we decide.
When I saw that record, I thought, wait a minute, she's a pretty popular lady, and I don't remember who she ran against. But you?
Yes, go ahead.
When you start drawing up the draft maps, the boundaries of those don't have to correspond to the boundaries of the census blocks?
Well, most of them need to conform to the census blocks, but those are the smaller units, not the big ones that all of these maps were showing. These maps were showing, other than the citizen voting age map, they were all showing block groups, and those can be divided freely. Those units are just there because that's what the data is for the socioeconomic characteristics. But the census blocks is where we have the data for from the census, so that we can say what the population is in a district. So the districts need to primarily be defined on whole census blocks, But sometimes you have census blocks, often ones that are unpopulated or that have pieces that are unpopulated, that don't follow geography that might be a good boundary. And so as long as we can identify, you know, a boundary that can be communicated to the county registrar, we can do those kinds of boundaries in a limited number of cases.
And if you do go about splitting one, how do you gather the data at a more granular level than what we have? Is that something the district would go out and do?
Usually what I do when I have to do that is I will look at aerial, the satellite photos, whatever, and basically if you have a block that you're splitting, count the housing units, or if you have a data file that has addresses, so you can get a approximation of how the population would be split into the pieces, and just do it that way. As long as you're not right up against the edge of your 10% limit on the population deviation, it doesn't really matter that much. You know, the data is already close to 10 years old, and so you know the exact populations are not going to be correct anyway. So as long as you're still staying within the 10%, and you're not, you know, you're not making assumptions about thousands of people, you're only looking at individual census blocks, then it doesn't really, you don't have to be that accurate in the estimation. But that's why I say that it should only be a small number of cases that you do it, because you really don't have a reliable way.
And I guess one more would be more towards council. It's really not a matter of if we go to districts, it's when, depending on if we get that letter from the law firm.
Right, so right now everyone's moving towards districts, and it is likely that we could face litigation if we didn't move to districts. So yeah, it is really a matter of just when we do it.
Okay, and I'm not a big fan of what Palm Desert did, but do you see, I guess maybe what's your opinion on something like that? If
yeah, basically what happened in Palm Desert is that there was a lawsuit filed, and the city wanted to settle it, but they didn't want to do a complete single member district system. So they were proposing various kinds of cumulative voting or other kinds of methods that sometimes will be alternatives that will work for getting minority representation. But there is a very significant concentration of Latino population and lower income Latino population in one particular area of the jurisdiction, and so that would not be likely to be as effective using cumulative voting or something. And so basically the attorneys insisted on at least one single member district, and then the city chose to have the rest at large and do that. I certainly wouldn't recommend a system like that, and I don't think anybody really would recommend it, but in terms of the legal obligation, representing that minority community that wouldn't be represented otherwise is sort of all that the attorneys were going to insist on. And so the hybrid system that they adopted was a compromise.
Okay. So what you're saying is that the attorneys who sent these cities the letter, they get a final say on the map?
No, in that situation, they were reaching a settlement agreement. So it was a lawsuit that they were making a settlement. So both sides have to agree to a settlement.
So in our case, there won't be that one step, because we did get the letter, right?
Yeah,
we aren't fighting.
Even if you did get the letter, you still have a certain period of time that you can do it yourselves, where you're completely in control of the process, and you don't have to get anybody to sign off on it. If you do something that violates the Federal Voting Rights Act in the process of doing that, then someone will bring another case, and then, and then you'd have that problem. But that's part of my job, is to make sure you don't do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just keep us honest. Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, one more.
When you were going over this, did you, in your mind's eye, see 5 districts that popped out at you? And when I look at that, I can't imagine, other than 5 vertical lines going through it,
Well,
a way to do that.
basically, the way that the population is distributed, you're going to have one district that has a very large percentage of the area, because you've got several very large block groups with only about 1,000 people in them, and you got to get to 7,000. So you could put all of that area into one district and then have a little bit, but most of the population of the 5 districts, most of the population overall, is in the more urban area, and so probably 4 of the 5 districts will be mostly located there. You might split the external areas among a couple of them, but they're still going to have most of their populations in that area. And so there's kind of numerous ways that you could cut that up. I think as part of the reason why I have those socioeconomic maps is you can kind of see groups of population that are similar to each other and other ones that are different. And so your district should probably reflect those patterns as well as possible.
Okay, so this is our first hearing, right? And so we now have another hearing that will be at our next board meeting, February 18th, the second public hearing, still with no maps.
Correct.
So we got more questions, and we can ask them any questions we want to at that point in time. So there'll be not much done between now and the next meeting, correct, on your part?
Yes. We will have some additional materials that are available for the public, information about how to submit written comments, and I'm planning to have some paper maps that could be available to people so that they could draw their ideas. So the public can be, making suggestions of districts in the interim, but we can't create any draft maps or show any draft maps before that meeting is finished.
Are those maps you're referring to the ones we talked about earlier, David, where it's larger and more detailed?
Yeah,
it's available to the public.
Right.
Yeah,
Basically,
just thinking of ways we can make it easier for the
Oh,
public.
good, and us too. Thank you. These are kind of hard to read sometimes. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Very helpful, thank you.
Yes,
All right.
so we'll see you on...
Thanks, David.
See ya.
Okay.
Okay, so there's no vote or anything on this today? It's just
No.
a public hearing. Okay, so we did number 7 on Thursday. We'll go to number 8. Pardon? Oh, were you talking? Oh, what are you saying? Okay. We'll go to number 8, which is resolution number 2020-02, it's adoption.
No.
Oh, I'm
We did
sorry, we
that
voted on Thursday, I see that too. Okay, next one is 9, mid-year budget review and proposed by FY 2019 to 2020 supplemental budget request. Does anybody have any more questions for Matt on this one?
This is for new positions, right?
No, we're on 9.
No.
9, the mid-year budget review.
Right.
Combination of new and legal fees.
Pardon?
That doesn't have, that part, that's not the one for the new position that...
No, that's on number 10. We're on number 9. Mid-year budget review and proposed FY 2019. Okay, so number 9, so if we don't have any more, it's recommended to approve this 2019-20 supplemental budget request. Do I have a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Second?
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So motion was passed with 4 ayes and 1 no from Director Brush. Okay, number 10. Ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-1, amending ordinance 93-3, and the policy to avoid disconnection of domestic service for non-payment. Director, General Manager, do you have anything else to add to this?
Well, no, other than I think everyone needs to know, this is a rule that we have to follow. We need to amend our ordinance to comply with state law, and that's what we've done. And actually, the only thing that seemed to be a little confusing during our last conversation was the fact that how much does this really impact us with regard to the shut-off? And it really impacts us very little. What did you say, around 10 days? I mean, we literally only extend the period of time. We've been the kindest of all of the districts in this valley. We really wait a long time before we really turn people off. So this law didn't have as big an impact on us as what you might think.
Yeah,
I think there was some confusion as to how long that, or how much difference there was.
Okay, well, any questions from the board?
I had just noticed that item 9 was the item that contained the additional position that was added to the budget without public discussion.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
When
this
you
one.
had that meeting that one of the directors wasn't in, and you authorized this to happen, we now have the employee sitting here.
This was, the first time it was brought up was last Thursday.
Right.
The mid-year budget.
You can't have secret meetings where you authorize the
You know what?
addition of a, well.
Nobody
you
had a
can
secret
object.
meeting. You're out of order. Now I'm on a different topic.
You did. You made a decision in a meeting. The evidence is sitting right here in the audience.
The decision was made just now.
No, it wasn't.
You're out of order.
He's been working here for 7 months. I don't know how
You
you
are
can
out of-
deny
you are
that
out
you
of
met in
order.
secret, authorized the hiring of a $300,000 a year
I'm going to
employee.
ask you
Well,
to
as long
control
as-
yourself, or I will take a 5-minute break so you can control
Well,
yourself.
as long as we're clear about what you just did. Thank you.
Okay, number 10. Does anybody have any comments, or would anybody like to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2020-1.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Number 11, Federal Advocacy Services, Carpy and Clay, Inc. We talked about before, Laura was here. When we first started with Laura and the other company she was at 15 years ago or whatever it was $3,000 a month, so it has not gone up very far. So can I'd entertain a motion to recommend to the general manager to execute the agreement.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Appointments to board standing committee. Oh, yes, okay, so I have one here that I made up here, and I'll say what I came up with. If anybody has any real issues with it, please let me know. Okay, the executive committee, that's a given, Wright and Duncan. Engineering committee, Gracia and Sewell. Finance, and the first one I'm saying would be the chair, and the second one is the member. So finance would be Director Martin and Gracia. HR would be Director Duncan and Director Martin. And public affairs would be Sewell and Wright.
Was there a change in there?
I don't know, I changed some of them around, I guess.
Oh,
I just, you know.
okay.
Yeah, it was more, well, you were on the finance, and you were on the engineering, and you still are. Okay, did you get that, Dory? Did everybody understand, and is everybody okay? Okay. So now the affiliation listing is the next one.
We don't need to prove that it's your appointments, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Affiliation listing. Okay, the top is, I've got a couple questions. Riverside County Board of Supervisors, you know, I don't remember that being on there, although I guess it was, but I thought we first put the supervisors on there when they used to have, and they still might, they have an annual symposium. I think it's on here too, is that?
Yeah.
Right above it.
Is that still going on? Riverside County Annual Water Symposium. That was on there. Does anybody have any, would anybody like to see the County Board of Supervisors taken off there? Because they really don't do much for us. Their meetings aren't really anything that would have to do with Mission Springs Water District, so.
I've never
We
attended
wouldn't
one.
want to continue having any kind of dialogue with the Riverside County Board of Supervisors because, after all, we're just a county agency and.
Well, we do have, this is just at their meetings.
Why don't you just come out and say it?
But this is just at their
Okay.
meetings. And I don't see on our calendar that anybody ever goes. So I would assume
I
that
believe-
nobody was going.
I believe Director Gracia has gone to one or two, have you not, sir?
About 6.
6 of them, okay. And I have to say, I think it should remain as well.
That's what
It
I'm
may not-
asking you guys. I didn't know if anybody went. It didn't look like it to me on our,
Yeah.
on our calendar.
I think we need to keep the option open because there may be a situation where more of us want to attend and issues coming up that may be pertinent to our district, so.
Well, okay, I
So I
just
would-
was
I would
asking
leave it on.
because I don't see anybody's name on it that ever goes. And is the task force still around? Is that the one that you're on?
Yes.
And that's still alive as well?
That's the countywide oversight board, and yes, I'm still on, I'm an alternate.
No, it's the Riverside County Water Task Force. Wasn't that the one that Marion put you on a long time ago?
No, that's the San Gorgonio Pass Regional Water Alliance.
Oh, okay. What's the Riverside County Water Task Force? Is that still?
I don't receive any information about that.
You know, I don't think they're around anymore. I don't think it's pertinent, but, you know, well, we'll leave it there for the moment, but
In
did
fact,
we find out if
the Water Alliance is in the meetings workshop the next category day.
Yeah, the Water Alliance, I know. I know you were still on that one. I just think that Water Task Force, I don't remember having meetings on
Well,
that for a long time.
first of all, if it isn't in existence, which you are correct, I haven't seen much action, and that was the Marion Ashley group that he spearheaded. I used to go to some of them. This is the kind of group that would comment on regulations or laws that basically mainly come down from the state or federal agencies, and we have to comply. They got extremely involved in the conservation policies and regulations that were put in place. But I'm not sure they're that active anymore. We'll check.
Yeah, find out. If they're not involved all anymore, we can just take it off.
Okay.
Okay, that was it. Okay, and everything else except for the next down, which are the meeting and workshops, compensable items. Ivan, I know that now that I see that you are the team, and I'm the alternate for the Groundwater Guardian team, and the affiliate is me and you. Would you like to switch on that? I would like to have you for the team, so you know, so what Marge is doing and what's going out there with the kids and stuff, you could be more active in that. So, do you want to swap on that one? Okay, so the Groundwater Guardian team liaison would be Sewell and Wright as alternates. Sewell is primary and Wright as alternate. And the Groundwater Guardian affiliate team would then be the opposite. Would be Wright as the chair and Sewell is the alternate. The Alliance is still there, Travelers, Legislative, I guess the rest of it. Okay, and someday when the Coachella Valley, Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce gets into this town and starts doing stuff in this town, we can change that as far as having a primary and alternate like we used to do with the Desert Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce, that, you know, where everybody was able to go to some of their functions in town.
Well, I believe we can all still go. It's just used to designate a representative.
Yeah, we made that because we weren't really part of it, or that they weren't doing
Right.
anything within the city.
Right.
You know.
But other than those changes, they'll remain the same?
Yes.
I would ask that we move to all directors approved for CBWD and DWA board meetings.
No, I think we'll stay. I would suggest that we stay with
I think it's clear that we're not getting the information from those agencies that we need, and I would ask that the board
But
make
these are
that
the ones
change.
we're compensating for it. If you want to go, you're more than welcome to go to any meeting
Right.
you'd like to. Okay, I think that's what I'm saying, for right now. Okay. Nobody's saying you can't. So now number 14, Mission Springs Water District, West Valley Water Reclamation Facility. Anything else on that item?
Nothing at this time. You got a status report on that. We're getting pretty close to final design. If we can get some of the effluent standards from the Regional Water Quality Control Board, we'll be moving forward.
You'll be in line Flynn, huh? Well, okay. Number 15, Indian Avenue Sewer Collection System Financing District.
No, you got a fairly thorough background on that. There's nothing additional to what we told you on Thursday, so.
Okay, now the consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes of study session December 12th, regular meeting of December 16th, December 17th, and the registrar of demands. Would anybody like to pull anything off the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion excuse me, did I hear you say?
I didn't get it, but I meant to say aye.
Okay, motion carried unanimously.
I'm sorry, who seconded that motion?
Well, it was a toss-up between,
You did? You won?
Randy.
Randy Line?
Okay, financial report. Anybody else have any other questions for Matt today on his financial report? Hearing none, we'll go to public relations report. Anybody have any comments on those? On that? Okay, no.
Monthly.
She's got nothing to.
Yeah, that's further on my end.
Oh, okay, I didn't think you did, that's why I didn't ask you. Monthly report, we discussed those a little bit last time.
It is kind of interesting that it doesn't tick up much, but you can see on the water report where you've got services there, how the numbers on the left are getting to be more and more populated. For a while there, it was just zeros.
Okay, now we are on number 20, upcoming events and directors' reports. Okay, start down there with you, Director Martin.
Okay. I want to start up at the top. On the 9th, attended the Desert Hot Springs Women Club fundraiser, and those are always very, very interesting, fun, but nonetheless important meetings to attend to support various scholarship type things. And anyway, I love doing those events, and it's very nice. The Festival Lights Parade, I think it's already been said that kudos to the staff for putting together an impressive looking float. It wasn't as impressive in the daylight as it was when it got dark and the lights were on. It would really change the entire look of it was quite impressive. On the 15th, I attended, going back, to on the 9th, I attended the Tribal Water Authority meeting. As I sit on the board of that, and I unfortunately can't divulge anything that was discussed there. It's anyway. On the 15th, I attended a reception for the new mayor of Cathedral City, John Aguilar. It was at his home in Cathedral City. Very well attended, including some of the electeds and the city manager from Desert Hot Springs. The Aqua Conference, I had a couple of the sessions that I found interesting. One was called the Energy Committee Program, how to keep the water flowing when the lights go out. And basically there was some background of a city who lost power to their pumping stations and were not able to provide water for fighting the fire, and as a result 12 homes were in an expensive area were burned to the ground, and the city wound up paying $12 million in damages because they didn't provide the service that people were expecting that. So it's important to be prepared. I also attended during the luncheon session, a water rights law update on California's complex water system. That was a okay presentation. The one that was kind of bizarre was the Water Industry Trends Aqua Talks, Inspirational Ideas Worth Sharing, also known as TED Talks.
Oh.
And one or two of the presentations were okay, but one seemed to dominate the presentation. Went on for like half an hour, it seemed like to me, and hardly anybody else got a chance to speak, so that was kind of disappointing. The luncheon session was the forecast of reservoir operations, or Forecast Informed Reservoir Operations, or FIRO, I guess. Another acronym that we have to commit to memory. That was kind of interesting. And then Federal Issues Forum. That was one chaired by Patrick O'Dowd, and the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and for the first time, a federal issues of forum, the Fish and Wildlife Service. So that was kind of unique and interesting. What's this? Oh, that's something else. Okay, and last was the Desert Valley Builders Association holiday and installation dinner, and I think that was one of the better ones I've attended, mainly because of the facility, and it wasn't as big a crowd as it had in the past, but it was still very well done, very well organized. So it was, well, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Randy?
Yeah, the only one I have on here is the DVBA Christmas party installation dinner, and yeah, I agree, it was not as well attended, but it was the first one I've been to that wasn't at the Palm Springs Hilton, which is a nice location, but that the Agua Caliente Casino out there had a nice dinner, good meeting room. There were less people there, but I think it was more intimate, a little more enjoyable. I enjoyed it. It was a good dinner.
Thank you. Dr. Brasher?
Okay, I have, on the 9th, I also attended the Women's Club, and then the 14th, the Festival of Lights, which we've already kind of talked about. But again, thank you to staff for the float. The 2nd through the 6th, attended the Aquafall Conference, and a couple things that stuck out to me was there was a lunch presentation by Sivan Cohen on Israel's water situation. It was really interesting on just the different similarities that they have with California, and how they've really done public outreach to kind of inform the residents of how to conserve, and just their whole mindset on conservation. And they're doing quite a bit of desal, and it's just interesting to see their outreach and their technology come together, and how they can do quite a bit with less. Also attended a groundwater sustainability breakout, and the main focus was just on GSPs and how the critical overdraft basins were having to come up with their deadline this year. And also able to complete my ethics training, so that was good. And then also attended the DVBA holiday and installation dinner, and that was a great event.
Thank you. I also attended the Aqua Conference. I forgot my notes. I can't remember everything I went to, but I did go to the Groundwater Committee meeting and the Federal Affairs Committee meeting on that Tuesday, which is a good place to go to get the information about how Aqua is actually, what they're doing for us on those particular topics. That's kind of a good place to find that out. And I went to some of the same programs or presentations that these guys all went to also. And sorry, I forgot my notes. And that was like way over a month ago. So, but I thought, and I remember thinking that I thought it was a good conference. I thought that the topics I was interested in, and there wasn't a session, maybe there was one, but there wasn't a session that I thought was off target or was not interesting. Oh, I did also go to the one with the governor's water resiliency portfolio that explained all that, and that was a very interesting one. Come to think of it. Anyway, okay, so next on is the correspondence. We don't have anything in here. General district council comments.
Those comments were given to you last week by Mr. Pinsky, and I have nothing to add.
Okay, general manager's comments. Or reports, or whatever.
Briefly?
No, two things. You know, I noticed last time there were some questions about our facilities and everything, so I discussed it with the management staff today, and my executive staff, and we said, you know, any time that any of you would like to take a tour, we'd love to, you know, take you out. If you want to do something together, let me know. We can go out to all of the facilities and you know, basically review anything that you would like. And then the last thing that I noticed today when we were looking at our status report of our AMI project, I just thought it was worth bringing up because in my written report I've got 1,200 change outs for this area. Today, actually, as of today, we have 2,088 meters, I think, replaced. So
Are those in operation now?
they get
Can you
as
take
soon
them
as.
off of them?
Well, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. That
It's
was your
easy.
cue?
I mean, the issue though is we really are not technologically getting that much more information. It's just more efficient for us, especially because.
But they work.
But they work.
And you can tell.
We can tell how much
customers
how much flow is.
Okay.
Director's comments?
Yeah. City council meeting tonight, one of the issues on the agenda is going to be a review and possible action on a salary increase for city council members. Also, city council is anticipating being dark in March because they are moving into the new facility, the new building. And so I've been very impressed that it's from when we participated in the groundbreaking all the way to they're moving in. It's been pretty impressive. So that's all I have.
No, ma'am.
Steve?
I do, actually. I have been asked to write a monthly column for the Yukon Report, and I've accepted that challenge. I'm looking forward to sharing my ideas on a wider platform.
Well, if you share it with us, too.
You can read it. Thank you.
I don't know what it is, so let me know when you write one. Okay.
I had a comment. I just wanted to clarify the item that Director Grasha brought up about a secret meeting regarding the new position, and that was false. The meeting itself was an evaluation of our general manager. Happens once a year. Director Grasha was invited to it. He was actually encouraged to come after he encouraged to come after.
You're out of order, Steve. You're out of order.
He was encouraged to come to that meeting after he declined because he said he was new to the district. We encourage you to be involved. And that decision on succession planning and hiring an assistant general manager was from a previous year, the year before, which was my first time doing the general manager evaluation. It was actually a negative on his report that he hadn't moved forward with succession planning.
Before evaluation.
So that decision took place prior to my arrival on the board. And I just want to make sure that we continue to understand that the five of us, our decision as a whole is what really we stand.
All five have to be notified. They're going to be on the agenda. You're new to this game.
Excuse me, Steve.
This is the kind of stuff that...
Steve, you're out of order.
Any decision that has been made by this board prior to your arrival, prior to my arrival, to anyone's arrival, we still stick by until that policy change. And that's what I stick by. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any comments for today. We have a closed session. I do have a speaker's card on the closed session. Just for reference, I will say we have an addendum, and that's the only thing we'll be going into closed session about. Jeff Bowman wants to comment on number 25.
Thank you, Madam President. Council, Counsel, as I understand it from the closed session point, that is regarding litigation and request for defense by Director Gracia. And I know that it's a closed session item, but it appears to me that he is attempting to use MSWD counsel as a personal defense. It appears to me. I don't know what it will be about. But I want to let the rest of the board know that this is taking public funds in the form of district council to be used as a personal matter. He has purposely been tearing down the district, the goodwill that MSWD has created in our community, and you are letting him get away with it if you would let him take this defense. He isn't a whistleblower revealing some deep secrets. He's a liar who, as the judge concluded, makes statements without any good faith basis, and they are made maliciously.
The judge
So
and I
please,
just simply had a disagreement on what
Excuse me,
a pervert.
you are out of,
That's simple.
you are out of order.
She didn't say you
Steve,
weren't a pervert.
look at me, you're out of order. I will ask you to
Counsel?
leave if you don't quit being out of order.
He's attacking a board
He-
member.
he is
and you're
a
letting
public
it happen
comment.
as if it's okay. It is a violation of
You know
district
what,
policy to
I'm
allow
going,
it.
Steve, I'm gonna ask you to leave.
Well, no.
That is your opinion. Go right ahead, finish what you were going to say, Mr. Public.
Counsel, I think it's also part of your job to referee this interruption and to help our board navigate the waters of somebody that is not fit for public office. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else like to speak on this matter? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to give it to you now, turn it over to you, our attorney.
So we will be entering closed session. It is pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 regarding litigation and request for defense by Director Gracia. This closed session will only include 3 of the 5 board members, so I'd like to request that Director Gracia and Director Duncan leave the room for this closed session.
Actually,
I think we're going to go into the room.
Actually,
sorry.
we're gonna go into.
We're going into another room, pardon me.
Yeah, it makes more sense.
Do I
Yeah.
have to stay here?
Would you want to hear what,
Not really.
what, if there's
And you
a,
don't need to.
You don't need to.
Thank you.
Anyway, did find out.
I haven't told you congratulations. How's it going?
So, and neither could he then, right? Right. Well, but,
I'll let them know in closed session.
Just then I got upstairs. And then I handed you another one. It's just that they were meant to be very full. And then,
I haven't said anything.
Yeah, that's good.
Thanks.
Oh, I do. I do. So what do you need? You just need to, one
I
step
told
back?
you that.
Just the one step.
I told you that.
Yeah, well, this one has your notes on it. And this first page.
Oh, I used them. Well, I didn't realize I had two.
Are we having those back?
No, this, she had gotten a previous copy. This was for Dory for the record.
I mean, I looked at it, pretty colors.
Thank you.
I couldn't follow along with what was really going on.
I didn't even realize I had two copies.
Just like that. It's all good items. Yeah,
Ashley, I'm impressed you missed your own meeting this morning, but you made it to ours.
I know, I was, when I was back, I flew in from Hawaii late last night to LA.
Oh, you
I
I feel
know.
so sorry.
You should, I'm a
You're
little jet
supposed
lagged.
to rush back for those meetings in Hawaii.
I know.
And where's our the little macadamia chocolates?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Your little puka shells.
Yeah, that was junior high.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, those were really popular.
Yeah, they were.
Junior high and high school, you're not that old, but yeah.
No, they were when I was, I think it's
Oh, really?
just a phase for kids that age.
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
evergreen.
Maybe freshman, high
Or
school
it may
age.
come back, I don't know.
It could have come back around again.
But yeah, we had a lovely time, so.
I'm
Back
glad.
in the saddle.
Yeah.
I know it.
Is yes. Okay, so I'll speak to her.
You can step outside.
You want to step outside?
You want to step outside? Want to take this outside?
You want to take this out?
Let's take this outside.
I'm just making sure he's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Monday is our second lawsuit, and he didn't show up for the first round of the second, and filed a form to delay or dismiss the motion. And his reasons were he was surprised and it caught him off guard. So obviously, I will have, not only were you served with the date, but I also publicly told you about it.
Right.
And
Do not surprise me.
no.
He's going to be surprised at the amount of documentation you're going to have, because if he truly thinks we're not paying attention.
Yeah. I read verbatim what the judge said. Right.
He still was pushing the line saying, the judge didn't say he wanted to hurt her. He was insinuating.
I didn't hear that.
That's what he was.
He was insinuating.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
He said the judge didn't insinuate that you, or didn't say that you weren't.
We just disagreed on what
Yeah.
the definition was.
Yeah, something like that.
You physically said that?
Yes.
Like today, right now?
Yes.
I didn't, because I'm speaking.
Put headphones on, play it back.
Yeah.
The judge didn't say you wanted to hurt her.
I didn't get your recording, because if that comes through, if his mic was on. Yeah, you should. It should go Facebook Live. I'm serious.
It will.
We don't have the technology to go live, but
It's easy.
the part that I
If
wanted.
these are streaming to a server,
Yeah.
you just hook the server up to Facebook. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but the part that I wanted was available with a link to where if you get home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I get home at 8 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
whatever my pleasure, I can click a button and there it is.
Right. Well, on Facebook Live, you can replay.
Well, yeah.
Yes, it saves it, and in fact, you can't undo it often.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, anyway, I'm curious to find out what happens Monday, and I think it's going to be in front of the same people we've been before. And when we went that second lawsuit, he didn't show, and the commissioner who heard it, she goes, "Didn't we just talk about this a while back?" And I go, "Yes, ma'am." And he doubled down and did it again, right that very day of the meeting, of when I was awarded it. And she goes, "Okay, with the paperwork, yep, he was properly served, I award in favor of you right now," and boom, done.
Oh.
So, but this particular thing he's requesting is that he wasn't there because of, like maybe I was sick or whatever.
Right.
He was caught off guard, or whatever the terms are, like surprise. And then, huh?
By the second one?
Yeah. No, but yes, by the second one.
It's caught off guard.
Yeah.
By the second one.
And what's interesting, the court they have all these really, I think, pretty nice, even though it's a lot of paperwork, to make sure that when we finally get to a conclusion, all the dots on the I's and the crosses of the T's are done, and that everybody's had a fair shake. So tomorrow or Monday, if they say, "All right, Mr. Gracia, we will now hear this matter now. Are you ready?" And of course, I will be ready. I'll say, "Here's what he said. Here's the data, and blah blah blah." And or if they rule, "No, sorry, You're wasting the court's time, and that's all I'm gonna argue, because they should give me an opportunity to say, look, he had been served, he was told personally, he's been to court over 20 times, he knows what he's doing, and this is an insult to the court and an insult to me. So, we'll see. And then, you know, I'm doing my best. Right now I'm thinking, yes, I can get to your ears. I just want to sit in the audience. And, you know, I don't want him to, I don't care if he thinks we're colluding. Because the fact is.
Who cares?
Yeah. And then his interesting spin about Euchre, the Euchre.
Oh, yeah.
The Euchre.
Did you ever contact the board of action? Reach out to you too?
I emailed it several times. Went back and forth a few times.
What, is this the Cindy Euchre?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually sent her a Facebook message because I don't know her. I said, I don't know how current you are on Steve Gracia, but if you go to my website, here it is. You know, and.
I sure hope she doesn't take anything because it's very slow.
I'd like to see the rights.
Yeah, I've reached out to some people that know her in the valley, that are in the political world, and I was told, don't trust her.
Right. Well, if she publishes anything that he writes that's inaccurate, he also will do.
Yeah.
So, it might be dangerous for her.
Well, they might not be very long.
No, they should be. I thought they'd be up there.
Yeah, I'm really surprised they've been in this long.
Well, they'll say no reportable action when they like.
No, they
No,
have to.
oh,
No, they have to decide. They have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The fact that he even had to, you know,
Audacity.
yeah, the fact that he
It's the
wants to
worst
take
report.
public funds for himself is, of course, you know, like he's given all his money back to charities, right?
And if anything, it would be the district representing the district against you.
Right, well, that's why I think all four of you should say to Pinckney, we gotta do something about this guy. He's lying and maligning the district. All the hard work and goodwill that we've done for community for decades is right now being trashed by lies. And, you know, little does he know, had he not done that thing to me, I would not be here.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would just say, oh, well, he sent out lying emails, but the people voted for him. Right. I'm not, because I'm not a sore loser. As much as I miss being here, this is not my motivation.
Right.
There's a passage in the good book that says, let not your good be evil spoken of. Yeah. That means stand up for yourself. Damn it. That was what Jeffrey's.
That was the translation?
Yeah, Jeffrey's modern day translation.
Yeah.
Stand up for yourself. If, you know, in a non-selfish way. It's like, no, you can't do that. We have a
Hi there, how may I help you?
Hi.
Hello.
We paid the water above here?
No, ma'am, upstairs.
Upstairs?
Yes, on 2nd Street. Well, I think Randy, she might
yeah,
have
this
parked
gentleman will
out
take you up
back,
there.
so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Oh, she did. She parked that back.
Here?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I kind of worked from.
Filled an open position, which
Yeah.
was a government affairs position, just to get in the door. And then it went from that to assistant to the general manager, and now.
How's the staff
I'm
feeling now?
assistant general manager. Good.
Oh, in other words, you can kind of.
He can decipher the
Nice.
waves and the
Nice.
imposition.
Well,
very
that's
nicely.
good.
He knows his stuff. So I
Great.
think he's a good asset to the team. Danny and Matt seems to be receiving him very well.
If they're embracing him,
Yes.
God bless
This
him.
is
No. They're all three on the same team.
Perfect.
You're the new guy.
Now today in the discussion, I think Nancy, I think he asked the question on the budget approval.
Nancy just dismissed him, and she needs to slow down.
Yeah, because he was asking about staff positions that were in that budget. And she said, no, it's the next one. And I'm looking at it, I go, no, it's not. And then he did.
She just got flustered.
Yeah. Yeah, parliamentary procedure has to be followed. And, you know, it's one of those things, that's the only, you know, because you don't want to get...
Yeah, exactly. But I absolutely love how Ivan corrected his inaccurate statements. Kudos to
I was
him.
proud of him.
Good for
I
him.
was proud of him. Yeah.
Way to go.
No,
The only problem though is Nancy said,
Are we recording right now?
yes. That's what I talked about.
Those recordings, the
Yeah.
cameras are facing the dais, but the microphones may still be able to pick us up. Not great, but.
Because Nancy was Jeff, that didn't happen, and said, well, yeah, whatever. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He just goes up. He doesn't follow commands.
Well,
We need the good old parliamentary 101. Parliamentary
I
procedure.
think everybody could use it. I mean, it's a tough thing to remember, okay, we have rules of engagement here.
Right.
And
You don't speak a second time until everybody's had a chance to speak once.
precisely, you only speak when you're acknowledged by the president,
chair,
by the
right.
chair, and, you know, all these things are critical.
But Jackie's been doing this since.
I know it. I know it.
Because this was the first time that I've seen Billy Paul.
Yeah.
And he takes every opportunity to bring her
Which
up.
is still
Chaps my
is manipulated somehow.
Like, I remember, you know, a question in there somewhere? The demographer, you know, they just took that opportunity to just ramble. And
You should not want the districts to get promoted because the four of us got together and
but yeah,
told this guy what he's going to do.
but remember, he can pull his house behind his truck so he can live anywhere. I don't think that should be allowed either. There's gotta be.
Yeah, and I think it should be mandatory that a director has to pay a water bill.
Right.
But that would marginalize any poor person or a renter, something like that, that may have their water and sewer covered, so.
What, yeah.
But to me, as a voter, I wanna know that you're gonna be voting on stuff that you have to do too.
Yeah, it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
You're going to pay the same sewer bill I pay, you're going to pay the same water bill I pay.
Yeah, you're only, yeah, right. Now, it has to be, it doesn't pass the smell test to me, that part of not paying a bill. Yeah, you like me, I'll be a good servant for you. By the way, I don't know you're paying.
Yeah, exactly. I can't relate to anything.
I want to say hi. Brian?
Yes.
Jeff Bowman. I've heard your name over the years, and I think maybe we've seen each other at Aqua or something like that.
I think we had dinner at one of the
Right.
Aqua events
Right.
many years ago,
Right.
yes.
Well, welcome
1 minute,
to
30
MSWD. I was
seconds.
told that
Thank you.
you're, you know,
Break
you're
room?
here, and it's nice.
Thank you very much.
Not that I
Cool.
know of.
Glad to be here.
Cool.
A lot of great things going on.
Oh, and some pain in the neck stuff too.
Yeah, but you know, that happens at every district.
Yeah.
Or every city. mean,
I have a saying. There's no milk without manure.
I like it.
And hopefully the milk is a plenty, and the manure is a minor.
Yeah. It's always unfortunate that those issues are there, but they typically are. So
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
deal
yeah.
with them
Yeah, it's awesome.
Ye of little faith.
Oh no, I have lots of faith.
Okay, we'll reconvene the meeting, and I will turn it over to our attorney.
For the report for closed session, the board considered Director Grash's request for a defense and voted to deny his request for defense. The vote to deny Director Grash's request was as follows. President Wright votes to deny the request. Director Martin votes to deny the request. And Director Sewell votes to deny the request.
Thank you. You know, Randy's left all his stuff here.
Yeah.
Jack.
Do we know where Randy's at?
Yeah.
He's right
Yeah.
here.
Oh, I was gonna say, Randy's left everything here ready to go.
I thought I was gonna have a new cell phone here for a second.
No, I didn't go to Randy.
I got a feeling that John had told me that. Oh, but he left.
Do you want-
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
You fight.
This is,
Nancy.
I wrote it down,
Yeah.
so
We
if
adjourned.
you want.
Oh,
We
yeah,
just-
sorry,
we
you
didn't
sure
tell
did
him.
not say that?
We didn't say.
She did, she kicked me out.
Counselor, are
She
we
kicked me out,
adjourned?
escorted me to the door.
No, actually, Nancy, are we adjourned?
That was fine.
I did,
No, we
you adjourned.
wanted to
Okay.
ask-
Hold on.